Hi, welcome to Believe Africa podcast, where we're having conversations that inspire, creating minds that revolutionize. I am your host, Cyril Gueri. For this episode 7, we're looking at value driven living. We have our guest, Nana Abrantia, who is a poet and writer, and he's going to share with us his insights on how you, as our listeners, can create a value system that would help you to lead a more meaningful and purposeful life. Welcome, Nanak, to our episode 7. It's a pleasure to have you here with us on Africa, Believe Africa. Could you give us an introduction of yourself and also what drove you to participate on this podcast?
All right. Thank you for having me here. I Believe Africa podcast.
Yes.
Yes, and I'm ecstatic to be here. My name is Nana Kabrantie. I'm a poet, a spoken word artist, and also an author of 7 books and still counting.
Great.
And I am an ardent believer of storytelling and artistic activism. I believe that these are powerful change, communication, behavioral change
Yes.
that can make an impact in our community. And it's also attractive enough for young people, highlighting the ills of society
Yes.
and also to solve situations that are happening in our communities as well.
Right.
So actually, when I was told about this initiative and knowing about what it seeks to achieve,
Yes.
it was also in alignment with what I do as well for young people as a youth leader. So then I thought that this would be a great opportunity to add my voice to it to also help us go forward.
Thank you very much, Nanak. Yeah, it's really appreciative of you agreeing to join us on this episode and share your stories, your insights. We hope our listeners are going to be getting some value from this value-driven episode. Let's start. Let's start to talk about personal values, right? Just for the benefit of our listeners, how would you define a personal value?
Okay, so with me personally, I see it to be as a modus operandi or a guiding principles
Yeah.
that facilitates the life of an individual,
Yes.
as in terms of your ethics and your conduct, your morals and your values. So this is how I define it from my own point of view.
Right. Yeah, that's a reasonably good definition there. We are conscious that for some of our listeners, maybe they're not, they have not actually thought about what value means, and so a good place to start would be to help to define that. So thanks for your definition there. Why do you think that values are so important for us as a guide, as part of our journey through life?
Yes, it plays a very pivotal role in our lives in a sense that in terms of our day-to-day activities, we make decisions and we all have goals and aspirations.
Yes.
So when you have this, it tends to make you solid enough as to where you are going because you can't just wake up without any agenda.
Yes.
Or even if you have an agenda, you need something that will become a driving force for you to get to the next level
Right.
or for what you actually want to get to. So it's very important and is needed in our life. And this is when you should cultivate it or incorporate it in your lifestyle or to highlight it enough, it will take you far.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're encouraging our listeners to lead more purposeful lives. This is what you're explaining. So an important place to start is to recognize what that purpose is, and then you're aligning your values with those, with that purpose, which is absolutely fine. Now, how would the steps to discovering what one's values look like? Because we can expect that for our listeners, there's not many that actually do have values. In fact, let's touch on this very question. Do we think that for our young people in the education system, are they being taught as to how they can establish what their values are?
Well, I think it is, yes, they are being taught, but as
Mm,
to how the loudness of it, because
mm,
to actually see an outcome, to determine if something is positive or negative,
yeah.
you need a result. So if you
Mm,
keep on doing certain, keep on following a particular trend for some time, or
yes.
trying to tell, become so loud with our values, maybe others, we have ours is faith, integrity,
Mm,
discipline, this and that, and that is
yes.
has become like a mantra. But
Yes.
you're not actually living that kind of practicality,
Right.
and it looks like
Bringing it to
yes,
life,
yes,
you
into
mean? Right.
life.
Yes.
We
Right.
do it, say it. So I
Mm,
would actually say that yes, but it's not where it ought to be.
yes. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So, in other words, we're covering it as part of theory,
Yes,
building that
theory. Yeah.
knowledge, yes,
Yes,
but not actually
exactly.
applying it in
Yes.
practical
Yeah.
terms. Right. Okay.
Or
Um,
sometimes to our systems or
mm,
situations actually doesn't even allow us to gather those muscles just to
yes.
live those values. So it's just like,
Yes.
hey, at the end of the day, just get the bag, the set, and
Mm,
you are
yeah.
good to go.
Yeah. But yeah, so so that's good to
Yeah.
understand in terms of how it's being covered as part of our education system. How does one go about discovering what their values are or meant
Okay.
to be, do you think?
So, well, I would want to use I really love engaging my audience. So, I would really want us to use the ASK approach. That's the
Okay.
ASK.
Ah, good.
ASK. So with the
Right.
ASK approach, the A is assessing.
Yes.
So most of the times we really want to go out there, wanting we are so obsessed in trying to date other people, but we
Yes.
don't spend much more time dating ourselves to get
Okay,
to
that's a good
know
word. Yeah.
what in the world, because you
Yeah.
should be comfortable sleeping with yourself first,
Right.
metaphorically, before
Yes.
you can also go out to learn how to sleep with somebody
Yes.
on
Yeah.
your bed. But you
Yes.
move
Yeah.
focus on trying to get to sleep with other people
Yeah.
metaphorically without
Yes.
paying attention. So with the
Mm.
assessing stage, find time for yourself.
Mm.
Be intimate with yourself.
Yeah.
Get to know what and what do I do that people actually do appreciate.
Yeah.
That is loud enough in my community that
Mm.
it frowns on the ills of society
Yeah.
and all that. So that will tend to give you an idea, even if you
Mm.
don't have any clue about it. It will
Mm.
give you an idea. What are you crazy about in your society
Yeah.
that drives you crazy? That I want to do something. I want to be a better person.
Mm.
This will actually become a signal, or it gives you a sign on what
Mm.
you're supposed to do. And the S is also seeking. There are many people who are closer to you, who know you, or probably have been with you in school, your
Yes.
mentors, your parents.
Yes.
You can go to them, tell them to highlight some of these things that they have noticed or
Yes.
observed in you. And you
Mm.
can also pay attention. Maybe you have it, but because
Not
you have
aware
not,
of it,
yes.
right? Yeah.
And maybe after, even if you are aware of it, you have to develop it
Yeah.
for it to become better or greater.
Mm.
Yes. And the K, that is a knocking, but with that one so intense, you may not find yourself during the assessment stage. You may not also find yours maybe during the seeking stage, but during the knocking, that is when you actually go deeper. You make a lot of research. You start by being one for yourself. If you don't even have, you don't even know.
Yes.
Start, if you can't work at being perfect, you can work at being honest
Yes.
and being true to yourself,
Right.
living that authentic life. So with this ASK approach, becomes easy for one to discover their values in the
Okay.
easy way
Yeah.
without going on a theory.
Yeah, that sounds like a good model there.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Nanak. So it starts with assess, seek, and knock.
Yeah.
Right, right. Okay. So hopefully that's okay for our listeners there. 3 steps: assess, seek, and knock.
Yeah.
Excellent. Because we can be sure that there's a lot of our listeners who are probably not value conscious. What would you say can you think about some examples of how having one's own set of values can positively impact them in their lives?
Okay. In your decision making
Yes.
skills, because as I said earlier on, your day-to-day activities and everything that you do, your business, your interactions with people, you need those values in there. And everybody at their core wants to be valued.
Yes.
Everybody at their core wants to be appreciated.
Or recognized.
Everybody at
Yes.
their core wants to be understood.
Mm.
And everybody at their core want to feel, want to actually want people to feel how confident they are in.
Yes.
So with this, you in this application of all these value added thing adds value to you in your day-to-day interactions with people, and also highlight what you're supposed to do more as a person in your
Yes.
community.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. And let's kind of dive deeper into some examples of values,
Okay.
because I guess some people are probably thinking exactly what are they, right? Could you think of some examples of values that
Okay.
would be particularly relevant for us in Ghana,
Sure.
Africa? Yeah,
So we have integrity.
I love that one too.
Yes, integrity, integrity.
Yes.
Integrity, and also what we can say honesty, but integrity is very great and huge. So
Yes.
integrity and also discipline comes in.
Right.
Discipline, and we can say
Do you think
self-respect, courage,
yeah.
confidence
Yeah.
also plays a great role in there, and having a sense of respect.
Yes.
Respect. So
yeah.
these are kind of key, or you being committed or diligent
Yes.
enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess we are good at some, but not so good at some others. Would you agree? In terms of the values that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think with respect, we're probably in a reasonably good place, do you think, with respect? We are a nation that is kind of highly regarded as being very generally respectful. But I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yes, with that I actually agree, because even with our culture here,
Yes, with our culture.
especially if you're a child,
Yes.
and like adults are talking, you're not supposed to interrupt, or
Yes.
even the adults are in a particular gathering, you're not supposed to be there.
Yes.
So that kind of, but and also I also see it to be like, I don't know if it is respect or for fear.
Yes.
Because if I actually respect, I should respect you regardless of your race, your
Yes.
gender, your religion, or who you are.
Yes.
But because you are a human being,
Yes.
I should respect you. But with some part of our culture is because I'm afraid of you, because of maybe what I may lose if I don't give you that respect.
Right.
So sometimes for that
So that
fear.
could be, yeah,
So with that, to take that for us to know the difference. But yes, I think that yes, we respect, we have that kind of culture. But that's to assess if it's for respect or for fear.
Yeah,
That is the
that's
issue.
a very good point, actually. Yeah, we have to do that constant sort of self-reflection, as you said, to make sure that we're actually applying it in a way that will help us as a society. How about integrity?
Yeah, integrity. It starts with ourselves, doing the right thing at the right time, doing the right thing when no one is watching.
looking,
That is where the test is.
Yes.
Yeah. So, well, we are not there yet, but gradually we are making progress. But I believe it starts with everyone individually in whatever assignment or role or task that you actually assigned to do. It starts from there. That is where it starts. Before, so most of the time we focus on those in the leadership role, statesmen and all that. Meanwhile, forgetting the ordinary, that is where it actually starts.
That's true.
And all that in our systems and all that.
And do you, so would you say that integrity could be linked to corruption, for instance?
Yes, because if you know the right thing, like doing the right when no one is watching, you know what you are doing. I said something earlier on, if you can't work at being perfect, or you can't actually be a person of integrity, if it's very huge for you, then work at being honest with yourself. That this is what I'm doing. I'm not sure I'll be able to do it. This rule I'm supposed to construct, and the amount that we have actually procured for this, and I'm taking my share just to construct any road, and then because I want some of the money to go into my pocket.
Right.
Then how are you actually serving the nation and all that? So individually and before, so
so definitely, and so corruption is a pretty big issue, isn't it, for Ghana? A lot of African countries.
Serious canker.
So maybe perhaps integrity is one of the key values, isn't it, that we want, especially our young people as they're growing up, they're coming into the workforce, to be able to bring those values to life. And you mentioned courage, of course, and that could be linked to cultural norms, right? Which is instilling fear in young people, and sadly, that can also stifle innovative thinking, etc. Right? explained there before. Um, but how do you think? What are the challenges? Would you say that people will likely experience when they're trying to bring their values to life? Do you think, especially with young people?
Well, yeah, it's about the environment
Right.
we find ourselves in. If you find yourself in an environment that doesn't really appreciate or recognize these kind of values, it
Yes.
kind of fish you as the odd person. Then it's like, what are you doing? Doesn't
Yes.
make sense.
Yes.
Who do you think you are? So with this, it's really a challenge. It's also paid you to be like, you don't know what is going on.
Yes.
You're not following the trend. So this is a challenge. So if you are someone, maybe you find yourself in like hundreds of people doing something that is actually on the wrong path,
Yeah.
and you know this is what I'm supposed to do. Let me just draw them like, what if I should single myself out? What would be the difference?
Right.
Until maybe you are well vested in that area that no matter what, I'm still going to take the next lane. And even if you're going to persecute me or abuse me, I'm standing for what is right.
Yes.
So I think that the environment also plays a pivotal role in there. So until we structure ourselves in there, but there's also a way we can also overcome. We can also overcome them by also creating our own environment. And because you find like-minded people around you.
Yes.
And sometimes when I talk about environment, it's not just about where you stay. It could be what you actually feed in your mind on, what you read, what you listen to. Like build that kind of connectivity or that kind of reservoir of people who will be a great impact on you. So with that, no matter the challenges or the negative forces coming at you, you know you are doing on the right path. And you'll actually be rewarded. And also systems, also setting up some structures or things that would actually get people who are always on the right path to be appreciated and acknowledged.
Absolutely.
That would also boost that kind of it too.
Yeah, I think you make a good point there, Nanak, about certainly in organizations, right? They are in a position to come up with initiatives that is rewarding people that have shown behaviors that is aligned with integrity. And I'm not even sure if our organizations are really, spelling out what their values are and actually continuously monitoring them to see that the employees are actually following those values. So that's another aspect.
And also, I think, and some leaders also do well, because sometimes you hear over there on the news, there is this man who actually went in the car, saw a huge sum of money and took it back. And you could see that leaders actually showing support by taking, all these.
I remember the story. Is it about the taxi driver?
A taxi driver too, as well. No matter even the persecution that came, people were hailing insults at, why should you do this huge money? How much would they give you to in return if you should send it? But so sometimes this forces negatively actually influence. Should I even take it? Even if I take it, people are going to really insult on me. And also I may even end up being caught. But when you have these institutions or initiatives, no matter what, maybe
you feel like there's some
let's
sort
do
of
this, let's
potential.
support this person. We have heard about this person returning this. Let's go, let's give the person support. With that, it will actually boost those kind of confidence and let's encourage many people to do that.
Be more honest. I think about that story with the taxi driver. I believe that like you say, there's a number of celebrities actually made a donations to him, and he actually ended up with more money. The amount of money that he found, right? So that's very true. I think having these kind of initiatives can really help to influence people's behavior. I mean, on a personal note, I don't give out any monies to the police. I'm very comfortable to say that because I don't think it's the right thing to do. But surprisingly for me, when I asked family and friends about, I explained what I had done in terms of not giving money to the police. They were quite surprised and disappointed that I didn't just pay and go off. And that's when I realized that this is why we have the problem that we have in Ghana, African countries, where people are just paying for the convenience, but we're actually creating a bigger problem. That's good. So for young people, it's particularly more challenging because there's that sort of lack of recognition. Not seen as being
wise.
Yes, right. Wise enough to be able to make decisions for themselves. So it's kind of tricky when you have a situation where a younger person is actually saying something that is wiser than an older person.
Yeah.
And so perhaps one key trait is courage,
Courage.
but in a very patient way, trying to make sure that the message goes across in the right way. And our young people need these traits in order to overcome those challenges, do you think?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
right. Um, now, do you, from your experience of working with, of course, from your research with young people, do you think that young people are relatively more courageous today than years ago?
Yes, 100%.
Right. So at
Yes.
least we're moving in the right direction.
Yes, we are moving in the right
Yeah,
direction.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's encouraging to hear. And of course, for our listeners, where as part of this conversation, the whole idea is for you not to feel that you should just succumb to not doing the courageous thing, doing the right thing. Um, okay. So how do we set goals? How does one go about setting goals, do you think?
Okay. So we always yes set goals, set
Mm,
goals, set
yes.
goals, set goals, and all that. But you actually have to evaluate yourself.
Right.
What do you intend to achieve?
Mm.
Because there are many people who are setting their goals off other people's dreams.
That's true. There's a lot of people living their
Yeah.
life through other people's
Yeah,
lenses. Yes.
someone is doing this, someone is doing. So if you actually live your life in the eyeglasses of people, you will die unfulfilled.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's very
So
true.
to actually set goals, you actually have to define your objectives.
Mm.
What do you actually do? What do you want? What are your dreams and goals?
Yeah.
And before I get there, sometimes you see people traveling all over, achieving this and doing that, and the other youth out there and feeling so sad about not seeing movement or let's see improvement in their lives. But the question is to ask yourself: did you set goals for it?
Yes.
This person, or did you save for it?
Mm.
Do you actually intend to actually achieve this year?
Right.
So we don't ask ourselves all these questions. So when you see other people doing so well in their field, then that's when the frustrations comes in, the desperation, everything comes in.
Yes.
So to actually set your goals, you actually ask yourself a question: what are your objectives? What do you want to achieve?
Yes.
What do you have actually in your mind's eye that you want to achieve? But this will actually help you unleash what you want to do for you to appropriately bring those things out.
Yes.
Yeah, so evaluate yourself and define your objectives and know what you intend to achieve at hand.
Yeah. And I guess it starts from, you talked about the importance of knowing one's purpose. Isn't it? I think that's probably the starting point, right? Knowing what your purpose is. And then with that, you come up with the appropriate goals.
Yeah. And sometimes like purpose seems so big.
Yeah.
Purpose is a very big word which is designed for us to grow into it.
Yes.
So someone say, I don't know my purpose. I don't know how do I actually set my goals and all that? I don't know my purpose. But actually, whatever thing you have, your gifting, your skills, it's a platform for purpose.
Absolutely, yeah. No, that's very true.
It's a platform for purpose. So that you don't need any big thing. It's just a big word for you, but we make it so huge that I don't know my purpose. Meanwhile, your skills, your gifting, your talent, these are platforms for your purpose and all that.
Yeah,
so
indeed. Yeah. And each of us has a gift, right? A natural gift, a God-given gift, even
abilities.
And as you say, it's a case of us trying to identify what that is. And I think you mentioned there about getting feedback from parents or friends.
The ASK approach too can also be relevant.
Yeah, getting that because sometimes we can't see that from within.
Yeah.
But someone from the outside observing will be able to give some indication of what that looks like. But is finding one's purpose, just talk about that for a moment. Is that something that is covered as part of the education system?
Well, I think I can't really say much, but what I
Mm,
can say is that I think with, as I said earlier on,
mm,
the gifts and the abilities is a
yes.
platform for a purpose. So I
Mm,
see that the educational system, it's a platform
yes.
for you to actually discover it. And
Mm,
the golds and the diamonds and the oils, these are things that are hidden.
sure.
It's not easily seen on the surface
True.
until you do a
Yes.
lot of work and
Digging
dig
and
in a lot of
yes.
things.
Mm,
So in school, you have your mentors in there. You
yes.
have your friends. So I'm sure the school educational system, there's these internal systems in there that
Mm,
will actually serve as a platform for you to unleash, because you
yes.
have a community of people in there. You
Mm,
have your friend in there. You have your teacher, your teacher in there too,
yes.
and even the whole system trying to groom you or the student actually is a
Yes.
plus. So
Mm,
yes.
yeah. Yeah, we did on one of our other episodes, one of the students did make mention that sometimes students have to take that self kind of responsibility,
Abilities, yeah.
because very often we are waiting to be told as opposed to us, taking the initiative
Initiatives,
to try and find things out ourselves. So that's probably a good point that you're
yeah,
raising there is students taking the initiative themselves as opposed to waiting
yeah.
to be told. Um, so how do we let's think about this from an organization perspective, right? Because we would like for um, values to be recognized and adhered to in organizations. The reason why it's probably a good place to start is that organizations, of course, are helping towards um, socioeconomic development
Yeah.
in a country. So if we want to make an impact, if we have lots of organizations who are taking their values very seriously and helping their employees to follow them, then we are probably moving in the right direction, right?
Yes.
For example, we talked about integrity could help to address corruption, for
Yes.
instance. Yeah. Um, how do you think an organization can help to build that? The values and encouraging employees to actually follow these values.
Okay, so I believe all organizations have
Mm.
I actually stretch on this objective because
Right.
when it's clear for you, it
Mm.
becomes easier. The other things becomes easier for you
Yeah.
to follow on. And even before that, there are some organizations actually, apart from, let's say, they do celebrate their employees.
Yes.
Let's say a month, employer of the month, all
Mm.
these, and sometimes they
Yes.
do sponsor these employees to travel out to go and get knowledge to come and help the
Yes.
organizations.
Yes.
Yeah. So, with back to your question,
Mm.
looking at, I think it's more of, we have the HR
Mm-hmm.
system, right,
Yes.
and they are focused on developing the talent of the
The employees.
employees in
Yes.
alignment to the company's goals and
Yes.
values and the mission and vision statement and all that.
Yes.
So
Mm.
with this can also play pivotal in terms of
Mm.
their career
Mm.
development and also enhancement towards that direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I once did a speaking engagement here in Accra,
Okay.
and I asked the audience if anyone knew what their organization's vision
Which
statement is. So that was quite an interesting reaction, right? There
Mhm.
was only a very few
Few.
people actually knew what their vision statement is, and that's so important as you described it.
Yeah.
You have to know what that North Star is, and then you find ways of aligning yourself
Self
to
to
that
that.
North Star. And it's the values, of course, that will help us to get to that North Star. Yeah. So let's kind of bringing this to a conclusion. How do young people, um, what are the different ways that young people can use to come up with their own set of values? The practical steps. What do you think that would look like? Um,
Okay. In terms of their for them to live out those values.
yes,
Okay.
yes,
So,
yeah,
in order not to actually stress that,
mm,
for the average or someone who is trying to find himself or herself in that direction,
yes,
um, evaluate,
right.
evaluate yourself
Continuously evaluate.
continuously,
Yeah,
and also create a reliable feedback system
Yes.
as well. And also, apart from that, to outline what you want to do, what you are looking out for.
Okay.
So with this goes back to back and hand in hand
Right.
on how you do want to do that. As part of the basic ways for you to go on that path.
Right,
So
okay.
basically,
Okay.
Yeah.
As I remember, we've been talking about organizations, for quite a bit. But how do we think the government sector can actually apply this? In terms of do government departments have values? Actually, maybe that's the first.
yes, they do. I'm sure because they do. Even if, let's say, we don't actually see it,
Yeah.
it's part of their mantras and core things, that visions, mission, and all
So they do
statements.
exist.
So they do exist.
Right,
But as to
okay.
living it, I think that is where
That's where the shortfall
that
is.
is. Yes. So I'm sure that a lot of work needs to go in there and to pay more attention.
Yeah.
That create that kind of awareness on that for us to focus more on them.
Yeah.
If not, we'll just be and we also tend to go through the motions of life like that. Let's go to work, let's do it, we are done. And all that. At the end of the day, we are achieving this without actually letting those values, those things pass through us.
Yes. Right. Okay.
But we just pass through because at the end of the day, I just want to make some few bucks and go.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's another cultural trait that we spoke about. With the students' feedback. They are often wanting to become successful overnight.
Yeah.
So that makes it a bit challenging to actually try and bring those values to life.
And even at workplace too, you go to work and instead of you to work, you're actually caught up doing something else, not giving that attention to your client or your people you're supposed to serve and all that. And it's a whole lot of issues out there. So by all these things, there are values in there, but if you don't actually allow them to pass through you, it becomes
it becomes a challenge. So for our listeners, if some of you happen to be government officials, where you're in a position to make recommendations on how our values can actually be brought to life. Nanak believes that values do exist for our government departments. So maybe we want to try and explore ways of bringing these values to life. And then secondly, as you mentioned, Nanak, is how do we incentivize employees, right, who are actually bringing these values to life? And then this way we're encouraging most of you to actually live a value-driven life. Yes. So thank you very much, Nanak, for your insights. And we certainly hope that on the Believe Africa podcast, there would be conversations within the community on social media platforms. And so this is how members can learn from each other about what actions we can take to bring these our values to life. And when we do that, we consequently help our country to become better, hopefully. Yes. Thank you very much. We will see you on the next episode. Goodbye. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to you joining us for the next episode. Please don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and YouTube channels, along with our social media platforms for any new offerings and engagements with you as listeners. And we look forward to seeing you at the next episode. Thank you.